Good evening, Facebook family and friends. I am Sheba. I am your happy bug. And tonight we're with our brothers again, and we have a couple new faces. We have a couple new faces. We have a couple, actually one returning, and so we have with us tonight. We have Greg. We have Javon. We have Rick, and we have Ty. And this evening we're going to be speaking about how does knowing that you drive a man to his deepest fear affect you? So we came to this particular topic as a result of what's going on in the news right now, with all of the George Floyd situations and all of the police brutality and different things that are kind of covering our nation in not so great of a great way. So I brought the brothers here because they seem to be somewhat of the target of the fear that is driven by the people who are unlike us. So we're going to go to each person and they're going to express how they feel about this particular topic. And we're just going to enjoy the evening. If you have any type of comments or questions or concerns, you can always leave them in the comments section. And but we're gonna start with Greg. He's the first to show with us tonight, and we'll just go through each brother as time permits. So welcome, Greg. How are you tonight?
Hey, welcome. How's everybody doing out there? Can y'all hear me?
Yep, can hear you clearly.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Yeah, all is well on this end. Thank you for having me on the show. First time being here, and heard a lot about you. Heard a lot about your panel, and just an honor being here tonight.
Keep going straight.
And thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
So give us what are your thoughts and what are your emotions toward this situation or these situations that seems to constantly bombard us as a nation?
Well, right now times are critical. Right now it's a lot that's going on. It's a lot to kind of take in right now. But as far as me, that could be me at any time. I could be George Floyd or Philando Castile or any one of those victims. We're living in uncertain times, and no matter if you know how they say you gotta, cross your T's and dot your I's. I hope I said it right. I mean, you can be doing everything right, everything to the T, and unfortunate things happen. And it is unfortunate that what's going on is not all about just racism. That's not the main topic of what's going on. But the main topic of what's going on is not just the racism, but just evil, period. And it's just something that we got to deal with. Unfortunately, it's not going to go away right now. We have to deal with it the best way we can, if I can say that.
Mm-hmm. So in your thoughts, do you think that there's something that particularly drives this in other people?
Yeah, well, be a little more specific on that question you just asked.
Like for me and my ideology, I think that a lot of times that we're teaching our children out of fears. We're teaching them to be careful when they come in contact with certain people. And particularly because we're of culture, we're of hue, we tend to teach them that about Caucasians and how they are they can't be trusted, or that they're racist against us and that they don't like us and all of these things. So what I believe tends to happen is it settles in the children's mind as something. It can only settle as two things: either anger or fear.
Correct.
So when the children are hearing that, they're retaliating as they get older, because a lot of times when children are young, they can't defend themselves against certain things.
Correct.
So do you think that there's something particularly that's driving it in our children, our people? Or do you think that there could be something that is driving it in the people who's creating the issue for us?
I believe it. I believe the foundation starts at home. I believe what we instill in our kids, it will carry over. But there has been times where the opposite happens, where they come from a good foundation home, biblical teaching, right standards, and they go out into the world, and then the world may introduce them to something else, an alternative. So it's like a catch-22. I mean, they get it on both sides. My advice is, continuously to instill it in our kids. Listen, even though what's going on, again, I refuse to have ill feelings towards the white race. I'm talking about me as a man, 49 years old, as a man of God, as a minister of the gospel. I'm going to teach and instill in my kids love, regardless of the color, skin color, race, and all that. That we don't see that, but I teach. I'm going to instill in them, you love your neighbor. That's what the Word of God says. I'm not trying to get religious on y'all, but that's how I am. But okay. that right there drives out all the other stuff. That's just my take on it.
So have you ever been faced with anything of this magnitude? Have you ever looked in the face of these type of situations where you felt you were that you were like kind of fending for your situation based on your color or based on your creed? Do you think anything particularly you've been faced with that?
I wouldn't say that I can remember something in my adult life. Maybe as a teenager, I can't remember everything verbatim, but fortunately, I haven't really experienced it in my adult life. And if I encounter something like that now, it's easy for me to say how I'm supposed to handle it. Like, it's easy for me to say that now. But will I handle it the right way when it happens? I'm praying that I will. But we're all human. Right. We all make mistakes, and we have, we tend to let things get under our skin. For instance, if I encounter some situation like that, because there's a lot of races that are coming out right now out of the woodwork, a lot of them being exposed.
Correct.
To be honest, I don't know how I would feel if someone was to call me the N-word of the white race. How would I react? I'm not saying that I'm going to, get violent, but at the same time, it's just hard to tell. It's hard to say how you're going to react. I'm just being honest. I'm being real.
Right. Yeah. I like that positive answer, because a lot of times people say what they won't do until they're faced with having to deal with it. And then Correct. Now you know that the way you thought it should have gone, it didn't go that way.
That's true.
And it's really funny because coming up, contrary to what other people might believe about, like the way I was raised, I didn't really know to have an issue or dislike about Caucasians at all.
Correct.
But a lot of people in my past did, and a lot of people in my past had experienced things that I had never experienced. And so one day I was faced with that situation.
Okay.
And it could have turned out a lot worse.
Right.
And it wasn't even my experience that I was living through. It was others. It was the fears and the discomforts of others that I end up living in that moment. Only for me to later realize that it never even mattered. So what I began to do is I began to study more of who I was. So now everybody else made sense. So it was no longer an issue as to whether or not they were right or wrong, or what they were doing made sense or not. It didn't matter anymore. So now I'm educated as to who I am, so I could better educate him or her as to who they are when they think otherwise. So that became, better for me. But I thank you so much for giving us your opening speech. So we're going to actually go ahead and move along to Javon. So thank you
Yes.
again, Mr. Greg. Thank you
No
so
problem.
much.
No problem.
And hey, Javon, good evening. The floor is yours.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you guys. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Sharing this platform with you guys. So this is my first time on this platform. So I'll try my best to speak from the heart. So what the issues that we're talking about tonight, these are like some emotional issues, and there's a level of trauma that comes with this. And I know me personally, I've been through some stuff in the past and some experiences, some racial experiences, and maybe I'll share a little bit of that with you guys. And just the notion of me even talking about it right now kind of brings up that traumatic experience. And I can still get nervous. I can still go back to that time. But my take on this whole thing, I feel as though the issues that's going on today, they've been going on in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 60s. So these are not new issues. The nuances might change, but a lot of the issues that we face with today, I felt like these issues have always, it has always been around. And now with the advance of technology, with the cell phones, they're starting to become a little bit more prevalent. But these are issues that has always plagued us. And I feel as though a lot of them is systemic issues. And that's the reason why it's so circular. So it's a brother that was alive in the 50s that could relive a lot of things that's going on, that's going on right now.
Very powerful. So you said that you've had some slight bit of an experience, but was those experiences personal, or were those experiences driven by someone else's experience?
Well, it was actually personal and driven by someone else's. But for me, I know I want to say maybe 15 years ago, I had an encounter, with a police officer, two white police officer. Was on South Beach. I believe at the time I was waiting on a gentleman. We was doing the exchange. I think I was purchasing some flyers. So I'm in the street. I'm waiting on this guy to come up. I just called him on his phone. He said, "Hey, I'll be right there. Meet me on Michigan." So if you guys know South Beach, you know that Washington Avenue, Ocean, they have the main street. But the street that I was standing on, it was a bit dark, so I'm standing out there waiting. And next thing you know, I get approached by two officers. I could smell the liquor that was on their breath. And, as they approached me, they asked me what was I doing? And I was very composed, so I just told the officers, I'm out here. I'm here picking up flyers from somebody. And before you know it, they grabbed me, jacked me up. And one of them actually, had me in a chokehold. And he's like, I said, "What are you doing here?" Went through my pockets and, saw the money that I had. I believe I had like $140 on me. And that actually was for the flyers. And the guy actually punched me. He punched me out hard enough to knock me out, but he punched me to the point where I felt it. And thank God, I've always been a person that's been very composed in my emotion. So I was, I looked around and kind of assessed the situation. I saw that there was nobody around, and mind you, this was at least 15 years ago. So cell phones wasn't that popular back then, so I just looked around and I assessed my situation. I saw that nobody was around. And to me, in my spirit, I just felt like those officers wanted to, they actually had death on their minds. I just felt like they was out there with the motive to actually kill somebody. That's how I felt, and thank God I was composed, and one of the officers actually asked me for my ID, I told him my idea is in the back pocket. So as I'm getting ready to reach, you know, he almost reached for his gun. He's like, "I'll blow your head off, young man. Don't you dare," you know. And I was very composed, you know. I didn't react. I didn't overreact, you know. So I was composed. I just let it happen. And thank God, you know, they actually they ended up letting me go, you know. But I just felt as though, you know, those officers had bad intent, you know, on them that day. Now, I know that might not be a reflection of all officers, but, you know, now that is a story. That's my story. But I know there's hundreds and hundreds of young men, you know, Black African men that has the same experience. And some people probably never even lived to tell these experiences, you know. So, and one thing that I say, when we think about the George Floyd issue and we think about Mike Brown, all of these issues combined, if you was to condense all of the names, the Trayvon Martin, and you take all of that and you take it into one, you compress it into terror. The only thing that's more terrifying than that terror is all the stories of the young men, those lost voices who never even got a chance to share their stories. You know, and that's why I say this issue is something that's been going on for years. You know, God knows the things that a lot of us, you know, Black men face, you know, and there's a lot of people who didn't even live to get the chance to tell their story or their stories. You know, I know, you know, the police lie, they plant evidence. It's evidence of these things, you know, COINTELPRO, it goes back, you know, it goes back. And one of the things me looking at this topic, you know, and when you speak about fear, the crazy thing about fear is I don't even think that it's a matter of fear, because us as Black men, we are actually the prey. So how is it that the predator fear the prey? I feel like they're out there hunting Black men, and not all police, you know, I don't mean to generalize it, but I'm just meaning like systemically, you know, systemically, a lot of them are out to get us, you know, and there's a perception that it's based out of fear, but I don't think that it's fear, because if you look at the structure, you know, whether it be from an economic standpoint, you know, the structure of this country, you know, we are not the dominant, you know, people that own this and own, you know. So it's just funny that how is it that they fear us when they are the ones that's in power? You know, that's just mind-boggling. And I think that, you know, it's misleading to say it's fear. And to a certain extent, it might be, you know, but I think a lot of it is hate. You know, a lot of it is hate. A lot of it may be greed, you know, but whatever it stemmed from, you know, it's just a matter of right or wrong, you know, and it's wrong, you know, the way a lot of people in our communities are treated, you know, and not just by law enforcement, but just by a lot of systemic issues that we face, you know, being a Black man in this country, you know.
Right. That's really solid. And you kind of fucked me up a little bit, okay? Because I never really thought about it outside of fear, because in my ideology, and now after what you're saying, it makes perfect sense. But in my ideology is only fear could make you set out for prey. That's how I think. Not necessarily that it's right. Because it's one thing to go out to hunt animals, right? To put them as a shrine on your wall. But there's a horse of a different color to go out and prey on something that is just like you, or is powerful, or maybe more powerful. Let me tell you, you guys might not even know how perfect you guys are to civilization. And I think sometimes when you're the great one, you don't realize how great you are, but others can see it. Sometimes people can see the best in us that we were never able to see. So I think that although you might have a point, like the point is so relevant and it's so on point, I don't even have a feedback for it. But I will tell you this. When I was in college, I went to college for criminal justice. And it was a few things that made me decide against going back. And there's a book out there called A Book with Stupid Laws. It's a little yellow book that they use in the law enforcement sector. But one of the things that I learned through the process is they did a study. I mean, I went to college. My daughter was born in 2006, so between 2004 and 2006. And one of my professors, he was such an amazing guy. I won't use his name just in case, something I say tonight, I don't want to like profile him or whatever. But anyway, what he said was, they did a study. And for the life of anyone, they don't know why when a Caucasian cop stops a huge man, he goes for lethal force. But when he stops a Caucasian, he goes for his taser. And when they did the study, it behooved them because not even they really make perfect sense of it, right? So that was one of the things that he told us that was very solid to me. And I was like, wow, that's it was mind-boggling for me. Because you did a study only to find out nothing. Like, where did it all come from? So that was one of the things that he said that kind of gave me that maneuver, like maybe this ain't the field for me. Because one day I might become the damn target because we know I'm nutty, So then one of the things that he said to us was, they take only so many huge cops in the force. They always put more Caucasians out there. And they train them and put them in our neighborhoods after they teach them to be afraid of us. So maybe that's where that ideology of fear came from me. Because the way that he explained it to us, because he was a detective, is the tactics that they're taught are for people who are dangerous to them. So remember, just like with the what do you call those? Like the judges, a lot of these type of people have these Napoleon syndromes, right? And they have issues with being unpopular, little, not respected. So they get into these powerful jobs that gives them that substance. So guess what they do? They put them on they get on police forces. And then they're put against you who are already taught to be strong by nature. It's a lot of things that people of hue don't have to so much practice at that other people might have to, because a lot of it, you guys come naturally born like that. So you're already, before you even know your strength, you already became the target because that's the way they're taught about you, if that makes sense. So when I use that term, I'm using it from those things, those places of study, because a lot of those things I wasn't exposed to coming up. I didn't see those types of things. I do remember when we were younger, my sister was like the oldest adult child that my Abba had at the time. And he would always tell her, if you get stopped, you drive slowly until you get here. If you get stopped anywhere, you don't let the police catch you nowhere that's not here that we can't see. And I remember that. So they've, like you said, they've been doing this forever. It just haven't been televised forever. So, I don't know. You made a good point, and I wish I had something more to give to it, but you gave me something new to really kind of consider. So when I go back to the drawing board, I'm gonna study that word fear, and then we're gonna talk about it again when I write a piece on it now. Because now I got to write a piece on it through my studies.
Definitely.
From one writer to another.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Definitely.
So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. So we're gonna move right along to Ty. Better yet, let's hear from Adiel. Let's hear from Rick. Uncle, we're gonna take you last. Let's hear from Rick. So what's your take on this?
Again, giving a shout out to everybody on this call. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. Uh, for me, it's very simple. Uh, if you forget history, it will repeat itself. We are lost people that half of us don't know our history, where we come from, but where we're going. So if you don't know where you came from, then it's impossible to know where you're going. The Holy Scripture tells us to when you train up a child in the way he shall go, when he get old, he won't depart from it, right? So that works. That's good or bad, all right? So seeds that that's coexisting with us this very day that was raised up to be hateful and prejudiced because this country was built on prejudice, right? And this is not about the skin color game because we ain't no more folks in America. We're not in any moral position to be prejudiced because we're not running this country. All right. So we can only react to what is being imposed upon us. You know, like when you're out there on the job and you're a pastor or you're a caterer or whatever your profession might be, and you found out your white counterpart is making $4 more than you an hour, right? All because of his skin color, right? So it's impossible for us to be. I don't think that we can be prejudiced, you know, because it was our black mothers who fed those white kids during the slave trade, you know. So what I think is though, we got to stop looking to any race to help us. We got to help ourselves. And the reason why we can't help ourselves is because we're divided against each other. A divided house will not stand, right? So if we can do like our ancestors did in Black Wall Street and start helping ourselves, then we'll have more respect. I'm gonna tell you about the Cubans. The reason why they have respect and the reason why they run in mind is because they're unified. All right. If you bother one of them, they will shut Miami down. All right. Economically, in every way, they will shut you down because they're unified. But as long as we have people, black folks among us that's doing what's been happening to us for 4 years, they've been killing black folks. They've been outright murdering us. But like one of the brothers that said earlier, we just have to be in a technology era now where it's about they record it and send it live all across the world. It go viral in a matter of minutes. So that's the only difference. They've been doing that. We made the Black Panthers was fighting for, right? They were fighting for equality because they were fighting against police brutality in the very neighborhood they came up in. That's what they were fighting for. But we allow, no matter even if we try to form a group to help ourselves, we always allow them to come in and do what they want to do because we're not unified. So we had a group, the Black Panthers, fighting for us and fighting for our rights and equality. We allow the oppressor to come in. And the oppressors, I'm not talking about white people. It's not about the skin color game because it's just a game to me, the skin color. It's just a game for people to enforce their evil, what's evil in their heart. Right? They hide behind the cult game. But this is history I'm talking about. This that already happened.
Right.
We allow them to come in. We allow them to come in and sabotage our very people that's standing up to help us. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's not right. You know what I'm saying? So long as we look into somebody to govern us and manage us, and we can't be self-sufficient, independent. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna always like until we stand up as a race and help ourselves, empower ourselves. We control the economic throughout this whole country. No one can survive without us. If we stop tomorrow purchasing and doing everything, the whole economy will fail. But we don't realize because we're destroyed for lack of knowledge. You know, so they spit on us. They look down on us because we allow them. How can I respect you if you don't respect yourself? Right? So we have to educate our youth. We have to give them a platform to stand on. You know, we have to tell the more as a people and stop looking to other nations and reality TV to train us when it comes to our mentality. We got to stop being our women got to stop being so superficial. Our brothers got to stop making the almighty dollar. They got to stop worshiping the almighty dollar. And we got to focus on things that count with our race because we have kids. We're being exterminated and we don't even know it. So the guy that we rallied for, the guy, the white guy that put his knee on the guy's neck, George Floyd's neck. Okay, he's like the fall guy for their games. You know what I'm saying? And when I say game, I'm not talking prejudice. I don't dislike any color people. I just like evil people. All right? When you do evil, then I don't like it. I don't care if you came from the moon. All right? But it's still a game that we're facing. We can't ignore that. Because you keep ignoring that, then we're going to spend another 400 years getting murdered. You know what I'm saying? But there's a game being played. We are being exterminated. Our little boys, I work at a correctional facility. Our little boys are given life in prison for petty crimes. And white kids are doing the same crime. They going home with they can. So when you send a boy to prison for committing a petty crime, and he got life in prison, he had to have a chance to procreate. What does that say about our future, right?
Right.
When you train, when the way society, and we just look at our race. I don't have to keep going into everything. All right. What's going to happen to us 40 years from now into the future? What the look like? Huh? Alpha boys living dreams from rappers that think they're going to be ballers, they doing crime. They get locked away forever. They're never going to come out of prison. They can't create. The other half die from diseases because they're selling their bodies trying to get rich. You know, and the other half is down from drugs and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we just messed up all the way around. We need help as a people, you know, and it's getting worse. We were better off in the older days. We had black leaders that stood up. Black people kept their dollars within the community, and we helped each other in the community. You didn't have black on black crimes back in the 70s. You didn't have brothers killing each other. You didn't have that back then. They were better off back then. You know, so when we look to other people to govern our race and we don't allow ourselves to govern our race, we become prey. We have to take what they're gonna give us. So it's us. We're the problem. We gotta help ourselves. We gotta come together in unity and do something for ourselves. The elders of the community, they can't be scared. They gotta step up. They can't worry about what people gonna think. This is your race. This is the future of our kids. We all have sons. I pray every day for my son to come not get hurt, you know? Because I'm gonna tell you, I don't care what color they are. If somebody murder my son, it's gonna be problems. And I don't mean it in a hateful way. I just love my son. There's no way you're gonna murder my son, shoot him down while he's jogging, take a shot, and gonna blow his chest out, then go home and have a steak with your wife and watch TV that night like nothing happened. You know?
Yeah.
And the people. And to let you know that he has support. Reason why he has support because he's able to go home and be with his family. Let one of us try that. You would be in a jail cell the same night.
Right.
They're not hiding that. They're not hiding that from us. We can't turn around. I mean, we all know better than that, and we know better than that too. You know, you can't shoot a white kid jogging. You go right to jail. But why we have to tell the city to make them go to jail, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
I think a lot of it is the way we think.
Yeah, but that wouldn't sit well with me. That wouldn't sit well with me knowing that somebody just shot my son. They sent Michael Vick to jail for fighting dogs. Now, you mean to tell me they can't send somebody to jail for killing a human being?
Right.
Let's think about this. They made a big charade about this man fighting dogs, animal rights, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Now we got people murdering human beings in the street, and they're going home. 2 months later to arrest them, this guy just blew this man's chest out with a shotgun, ran him down and shot him like a dog. I bet you if it was an animal, you'd already be in jail.
Right.
Can't shoot bears, they're extinct. We have to arrest them right now. All right? I mean, this is America that we're living in. All right? And when you talk about things, they always say, oh, you preaching hate or you racism. If I'm preaching hate but talking about what's happening, then we got serious problems.
Well, what does hate sound like? If that's right, if that's hate, what does hate really sound like? So you're right about that. So
about people,
right?
You know, so it's
Right.
it's crazy. So we stand up and support each other, stand up for what's right as a race. All right, as a race. No one's being prejudiced, but it's obvious that it's only happening to black folks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So as a race, this is just happening to black folks because we all have black kids. We have to stand up. See, and they did a poll this morning. The numbers were staggering. The chance of a black man losing his life when he get pulled over by a car. The numbers were staggering. 110% chance of getting killed, get pulled over by a regular traffic stop.
Right.
And all of us experience racism. They say 3 out of 5. No, they say before every black man reached the age of 45, he would have been arrested. He has been arrested at least once in his life before he reached 25. That's a statistic.
Right.
So
Well,
what
we're
does that
gonna
tell you?
get back. Yeah, we're gonna get back. We're gonna actually, because we haven't introduced. Well, we introduced him, but he hasn't had the floor yet. So we're gonna give the floor to Ty so he can give us his ideologies, and then we're gonna go back through the room and let you guys talk to us some more. But we really appreciate you. Thank you, Eddie L. Rick, as you have it there. Uncle Tyrone, the floor is yours, sweetheart.
Good evening, everybody. I appreciate you guys having me on this platform. My opinions of these certain events, certain occurrences, and I say occurrences because there has been a frequency of these. I call them atrocities because if we look back in history, you'll see the atrocities that was happened to the black race in a whole. Not saying the other atrocities of other races didn't matter, but right now this is the issue that's on the floor.
Okay.
My heart goes out in both areas because just like there's evil people, there's good people, there's evil cops, there's good cops, and there's bad cops. So I understand that the tension now is very thick towards those things because it's an amount of frustration that comes along with the frequency of the occurrences that has taken place, and nobody has done nothing about it, not one thing. So a little bit of where I stand at with this race thing is that I was never raised to hate a certain nationality or a certain color. I was never raised to have that type of prejudice. But I have dealt with prejudice towards me from Caucasian people more than once, more than twice, more than 3, more than 4 times. And I believe all of us on this platform, we can have a powwow and a conversation about all of it, and we'll close out this platform without having a resolve to benefit the platform. So
Okay.
To me, this is my opinion. Once I've learned the American history, I couldn't trust, I still to this day can't trust America when it comes down to me. Quote unquote, America was discovered by a man that saw people here before he actually discovered it. That's how America was built. So how can you trust a system that was built on the foundation of that? How can you think you will ever fit in to a system like that? How could we even think that we have an equal playing field on a system like that? And it has never been resolved from that time to this time. There has never been an apology saying that no, we didn't discover this. People was here before we got here.
Mhm.
And then that system was reformed over and over again to build what we call right now America, what me, you, and everybody else live in,
Mhm.
over crooks. So now with that same foundation, here comes the Jim Jones, and then here come the Jim Crow laws, where
Mhm.
almost the society of Caucasian people actually were able to police the civilian people of black people. The police was never meant for us. The police was meant for white folks. What we was getting lynched, we was getting beaten, we was getting abused, there was tons and tons of atrocities. So when this incident, and when I saw the video, I was up here in Atlanta, and I saw the video of this man knee in the back of this man's neck, and he was crying for his mom because death was right before him. It 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 brought me back to the history of America, and then it made me upset, and then it saddened me at the same time, and then it put me in a range of uncertainty dealing with the people who were created to serve and protect the people. But with the atrocities that with these bad cops in the game, that is not serve and protect. That is serve justice on the spot. No protection. So now you have children, and remember, I'm talking about a system that this world and that this government created. You have a system within a system that has systems that take away parents out of the homes. You have systems that where kids have to almost raise themselves because of governance system that was here by the foundational system that was brought upon by America. And this is stuff that we live in, and we see the youth suffer. We see people suffer in this system, and nobody does nothing about it. So even though we may teach our kids not to hate a different race of people, we may teach our kids to love everybody, but there's a time in the individual's life where you keep stepping on their toe without saying sorry, somebody is going to retaliate, especially when you're doing it with a purpose of a badge on your chest. So for me, I had to, when I was up here, because it was, for me, when I saw the continual injustice, even during the riots. I'm not talking about I mean the protests, and I'm not talking about looters, because looting and protesting is two different things. I'm talking about the protest. Even when the protest was going on, and I saw how the people who was placed within the realms of the community to serve and protect was actually rendering justice on the spot to peaceful protesters, that made my emotions just fluctuate over and over again, over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. And I'm driving and I'm working and I'm trying to stay focused that all Caucasian people are not like what we see. All black people are not what we see. All Haitians and all Japanese are not portrayed of what social media the media shows us to be. If
Right.
if I allow myself to walk in my emotions with this whole thing, I'm doing exactly what they're doing to them. And remember, we already have a stereotype about us, whether we in the suit or a tie, or whether we got on baggy pants. There's still the stereotype about us. So I fit right into that negative type of stereotype that's already there about us. But what I saw the power at in that part was that we have to educate ourselves. We have to educate our youth. And then we have to share that education. And then we have to stick together because education is power. I agree with everybody. I agree with what everybody said on the panel. But it's easy every year to have the kids do a play about I Have a Dream. It's easy every year to have the kids do a play about Rosa Parks sat on the back of the bus. It's easy to have the kids put on skits about the Thanksgiving and all this other stuff. But what are we doing about right now?
Right.
They suffered and died over that point to get us to where we can have a platform right now to even talk. So what are we going to do now to enhance and further that freedom for us from this point? And I believe that self-education about the governing system, about the atrocities that happened before to the atrocities that happen now, and understand within those realms how to operate and still how to learn how to be successful at the same time. What are we going to do not to blend into a system that wasn't created for us, but how are we going to govern ourselves within the realms of that, with knowing that, without going into their other system, which is called prison?
I think the biggest issue that we have amongst our race is the fact that we don't really know just as much as they don't really know about our history. I think that our history didn't start where it was all wrong. I think that our history stopped where it was all wrong. And I think a lot of times as people, we're not paying attention to how much we can create a new history on every single
day. Every day.
Because like I tend to tell people a lot, like, I am my father's history. I am my mother's history. My mother was her mother's history. So at what point do we stop living in the thought process as to the way things were before? Because the way things were already happened. So I think a big thing that we need to do as a people is begin to study a little bit more to learn who we are, to learn what we're looking to do. Because sometimes when we're continuing to go back in history, we're given like a blanket of excuses almost for people never to be different. So how do we teach our children to be different in a world that we keep showing them where their ancestries, the people of their past weren't proper? I think that's where a lot of the pain settles in with us. If we really stop and pay attention to the things that we learn, even about the Constitution of the United States, because a lot of times we become blasphemous of America. We are America. Even when you read the Constitution, and this was brought to my attention, it fucked me up really, really bad. Because in the opening of the Constitution, it says, we the people of the United States, to form a more perfect union, here to establish equality, prosperity, whatever all that other stuff in the middle. Do hereby write the Constitution for the people of the United States of America. So constantly we're giving them power. And like Eddie L said, we have to stand together, because we'll fall divided every time. We have too many of the different races of our own culture of people that we're dividing ourselves against. We know the Jamaicans, and we know the Haitians, and we have the Antiguans, we have the Bahamian, we have all these people. And a lot of the people that we're needing to stand strong with us might not have ever experienced some of the things that Americans really experienced in the process. There were people here when they arrived. We know that. Yeah, you can say whatever you want. Anybody can chime in.
All right. Well. The reason why it's like that, because all those people you named, they're thinking that they're different because they don't know the history. When we all are descendants of slave trade, right? We all just vote through the transatlantic slave trade, brought them their ancestors here, brought ours here. So, but the white people don't. White folks know our history. So when they look at a little boy walking down the street, they don't say, "Oh, that's a Bahamian, so leave him alone." They just see black person. They just see that's a black boy. Let me do what I gotta do to them. For those who breed that hate, you know what I'm saying? But it's a reality that we have to face in America that you can't get around it because those seeds that been planted has been grown. You know, I'm not saying all police are evil. That's evident it's not. But look at the numbers as far as police brutality and killing unarmed black men who are cooperating and actively following instructions. Just like George Floyd, he was following instructions. They still killed him. You know, so how do you get around it? Just imagine how long that's been going on. Just imagine in a time where there wasn't no cameras, where nobody could flip out their phone and tell a story, and we had to rely on the statement of that same officer that killed them. Imagine we just had to rely on that statement. They already didn't want to arrest the man when we saw him get killed live on video. Imagine if the video wasn't there. Let's just imagine. Yeah. We got a problem. We got a serious problem. There's a serious problem. We got to tell half of America just to get this man handcuffed. That's a serious problem, man. That's serious, man. That means justice is not for us.
Do you really?
The ones that sit back and stay quiet, they just as worse as the guy that did it. Because for you to stand quiet, and like all of us have agreed that we grew up more or we were taught morality, but for you to stand back and just be quiet or something like that and don't say nothing. But everybody has something to say when that man the black guy took a knee at the football game. Everybody weighed in on that. But they can't weigh in on a guy losing his life. Right?
So let me be clear. Let me ask you a question. Should I say not to be clear? Do you really feel in your heart of hearts that the people in America were brought here only by slave trade?
Yeah, that's evident that we bought chains on ships. It's written in history that we bought on chains change the ship. God wrote that in the Bible. That was purpose. What I'm saying, you don't know our history, so since you don't know your history, repeat itself. But more than anything, our people are struck for lack of knowledge, and because they don't have knowledge.
You don't know your forefathers' history, but you know your history. You've created your own history with your children. You've created your history.
That's a lineage. I'm talking about the main history. Our forefather was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They the ones started civilization. All right, let's be clear. They're the ones. That's where Noah came from. When God flooded out the world, the whole population, white and black, was created from Noah and his sons. Okay, so let's not forget that. I mean, that's how we got here. But I'm not talking about my family tree. When I look at my race, George Floyd is more than my family tree. He's a black man. I'm a black man. My son is a black man. He represents me. He is I, and I am him. All right, we're not different. We're not individuals. We're the same people. If they're doing it to him, they can do it to me.
You went away, Eddie.
I said, I've been pulled over and told I was a drug dealer. The guy claimed he pulled me over from my tent. And then I went from my tent into thoughts to I was a drug dealer. Just looking at me. He said I was a drug dealer. But I was manager on my job for 20 years. But the guy looked at me and said I was a drug dealer because I was black. And then when he ran my license, they couldn't find any history of me being arrested. Now I went from a drug dealer to he must play football or something. You know, it's not fiction, but it's a serious problem when a guy can shoot a man down jogging and it takes them 2 months to put him in jail. That's a serious problem, man. That's a serious problem. When I see that, I see
We're getting a lot of feedback, Adiel. Did somebody try to say something? Hold on, Adiel.
Yeah, I wanted to say something right quick. And, thinking about, the topic, how does knowing you are a driver man to his deepest fear affect you? One of the things that still puzzles me is everybody is aware of the Philando. Is it Philando Castile? Did I say it right? His last name?
Castillo?
Yeah, that was his last name. With an officer
I'm
shot.
not sure.
Okay. Well, what one of the things that bothered me about that situation is Philando advised the officer that he has a concealed weapon permit, I believe. And I believe he informed the officer that he has a concealed weapon, which he never, showed it. Now, I myself, Tyrone knows, I'm a certified firearm instructor. And those things go in the back of my mind at times. I haven't gotten pulled over in the last, I don't know, few years. But, that's one of the fears that goes in the back of my mind because I'm constantly educating myself on the do's and don'ts. But think about Philando. He did what was right. He informed the officer prior to whatever that he does have a concealed weapon permit. And I believe he advised the officer that he has a concealed weapon. Those are some of the things, and just trying to educate people on some do's and some don'ts pertaining to law enforcement officers. All of them are not evil. All of them are not trigger happy. All of them are not intimidated by us. But the ones that are, we have to continue not just to educate ourselves, but my brothers that's on this panel as well, and my sister as well, to inform each other and educate each other on some do's and some don'ts pertaining to when we encounter law enforcement. And again, I'm not going to take up too much time, but like I said earlier, it's not about a racial thing to me. That's just my take on it. But it's about an evil heart thing that's going on with the people. Now, if we do look at go back in history as well, it hasn't always been white officers that has shot black so-called perpetrators. It's been a couple black officers as well. So again, it's what's in the heart of a person. That's something that we have to deal with right now, and we have to deal with it the best way we can.
I want to say something to that because to me, but my question is now, who's to blame? Who's to blame for all of this that the finger could get pointed to and say, why? That's my question. Now,
why? What? What is the why?
Why of the continuation of the profiling and the atrocities towards black men?
Because y'all ain't killing them.
Why does it take for somebody to die to say Black Lives Matter? Why Black Lives doesn't matter when you're not self-educating your kids? Why Black Lives doesn't matter when another black man is beating his wife, are getting drunk on the side of the street, are committing drugs? Well, about all these Black lives that matter then? So we have to really look at, we have to do an internal check right now, because if you notice, this event is causing people true colors to come out. This is not new characters. These are characters that was embedded in the people that's causing these. That's for people to talk about now, because it's right here in the open. And my other question is to the fraternal order of police. If you know there's a police officer that has a history of non-justifiable violence, why you don't bring this man in and do a psych evaluation? Why does that badge clear him from any consequences of unruly and unjustly profiling, um, um, corruption, or anything, especially when there's a continuation of reports on this individual. Why isn't there? We need to pull him off because he does have a gun and he can hurt somebody. Let's do a psych evaluation on this man just to see if he's legally able to be out there to protect and serve the people, because that's the police job, to protect and serve the people. But if you have mental ill issues, and with some, I think I'm not talking about the people on this panel, but I don't think people understand the stress that comes with being a police officer. Police officers go through stuff that we'll never go through because they see crimes more than what we see, and they have to deal with the crimes more than what we do. They don't talk about the things that they see people do to another person, but they take this stuff home. They may take it out on their family. They may take it out on themselves. And I'm not using that as a way of saying I'm justifying another person's act, but there should be things that are set up for these individuals where we don't have to worry about getting pulled over by a car. If you understand the protect and serve law, you understand you're never supposed to be uneasy when the police pull you over, because his job is to protect and serve. But now, for years, we have been, Eddie, what'd you say?
I said, I believe that word protect and serve is a political.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can hear you. Keep going. Yeah.
I said that word protect and serve is a political game. See, my problem is it's not the fact that he got murdered by a white guy. The problem I have is every time one of us gets killed, they do nothing about it. Trayvon Martin got murdered, and he had a bag of he had some candy in a drink, and his killer went free. I mean, it took them. This kid was jogging down the street. It took them 2 months to put that guy behind bars. What's going on with our justice system? Justice means that it's going to be on a scale of equality. There's some equality there.
But it wasn't built on equality. It was never built on equality.
But that's what I was saying earlier. That's what I was saying earlier.
Hold on,
That's exactly what I was saying earlier. The system is screwed up from the foundation. How can we ever trust the system? If you saying the Pledge of Allegiance and it say liberty and justice for all, and with the stuff that has been going on in the past and right now, is that actually true? No.
Hold on, Javon wanted to say something. What you got to say on this, Javon?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to something I believe it was Brother Greg was saying earlier. I respectfully actually disagree. I think that it is about race and the color of a man's skin. And I think that, at least that's my opinion. And I think that it's almost impossible to escape that reality because the very fabric of this country, it was built on race. I know we were talking about our history, we existed, we had history before slavery, but when it comes to this country, I believe that the very fabric of this country was built on the backs. It was built on the backs of slaves, and I feel like systemically, it's hard to escape the fact that it is about race. That's the whole history of this country. It is about race. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, my screen just went blank. And also just in response to another brother, I believe he mentioned so why don't we as a people react a certain way when it's like black on black crime. And I feel as though, you know, I agree to a certain extent, but I feel as though they're like two separate issues. It might be related, but I just feel like it's just two separate issues. Our history go back, especially in this country, from a systemic standpoint. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that causes a lot of things in our community, you know, which is like a breeding ground that causes certain violence and certain hatred, you know, for one another. And that doesn't excuse it. It doesn't justify it. But there's a level of understanding from a systemic standpoint. And it's up to us to overcome that, you know, and not use that as an excuse. However, you know, from a systemic standpoint, I feel like, you know, in our communities, you know, there's guns, drugs, violence, things in our communities that harbors a certain thing, you know, and as it relates to the police, the reason why I feel as though that's a completely different issue is because it is their job. It is their job to protect the people. You know, that's their job. And right now, they don't do that. You know, like I said earlier, you know, it seems as though we are the prey and they are predators. You know, so that's the difference between those situations. They're paid to protect us, you know, and the very same people who are paid to protect us are the same people who are killing us. Not all of them, but a good majority of them.
It's like a business for them. I don't think the true virtue of being a policeman is there now. Now they have to transform that through criminal justice system, which is the one big business. When you get arrested and go to court, it's all about money. They got investors building and investing in money and building more prisons, right? Mm-hmm. So those prisons built. So you got officers, if they want to work their way up and get their rank and get promoted within the police station, based on how many arrests they can make. So what do you think they're coming at to make those arrests? To the poor neighborhood where they know crime's gonna be at. So they look at us as a number, as a statistic to get their stripes so they can make a decent career. They're not out there to protect and serve. They're out there to profile us so they can get their ranks. You know, that's how I feel about that. You know, so if I can get over 500 arrests this year, I can make detective one day, or I can make captain one day. You know. So that's what I think, and that's how I think police look at it. Of course, they're black cops killing other black cops, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about statistics. Statistics show that the majority of the black men are dying at the hand of white cops, and they're getting murdered innocently. You know, that's what statistics show. The root of it is being biased. So we're taught to be biased from our youth in kindergarten. CNN did a study this morning, unconscious bias, they call it. You can go to CNN.com or you can click on the video and you can get the perspective of what I'm talking about. They had a group of kindergartners and they had one little black child playing with all of the kindergartners from different ethnicities. And the kindergartner from kindergarten was profiled by the other kids and the teacher as being the one that's gonna fail and be the one that's gonna be most problematic. He just was sitting there being black, wasn't causing any trouble or anything. So if I raise you up that way, how you think you're gonna be? The creatures of habit. So train up a child in the way he should go, and when he get older, without depart from it. So if I raise you that way, you'll.
I'm back. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know, the streaming, something is going really crazy with it. So I really missed everything that you talked about, Javon. But I'll look at it a little bit later and kind of go back over it and maybe respond to it a little bit later. But I come in and out, like it chopped in and out. But I don't disagree with anything that I've heard from any of you guys thus far. However, I will say that a lot of our issues that we have as a culture is that we don't know what our reality really is. We don't know the truth. We don't know what our real truth is, what our real truths are. We don't know that the system that they use against us was a system that was built for us to be able to tolerate with them. But a lot of us don't deal that study. A lot of the studies that we deal with are the studies from what the history books teach us today. And a lot of it is missing a lot of information. Even if you, and I don't like to refer too much back to the Bible anymore, because I feel like religion is what divides a lot of people in the big scheme of it all. However, if you go back even to the Bible, it was depleted of a lot of the good stuff that was really in it originally. There's a lot of books missing out the Bible right now that no one ever reads. And a lot of that is the reality of certain things that we should be abiding by. One of the most important scriptures in the whole entire book of the Bible that makes more sense than any was 2 Timothy 2:15. It says study. The first direction in that scripture says to study.
Yes,
if you don't study, John 8:12 will never matter. Because if you don't study your history, you won't ever know your truth. Now, did they bring people over here on slave ships? Yes, they did. That I don't doubt that at all. But my history didn't start at the people that they brought over here on slave ships history. That's not where my history begun. So for me, I continue to create history with everybody that I brought to this world. And my goal is to instill in them what their realities are. My goal is to teach them what's the reality of their truth. If we really, really know, the police should never be carrying guns anyway, because you don't need to protect and serve an unarmed man with arms. You don't need to. It doesn't even make sense. Now, if someone in the car is going to shoot you, but if they only going to shoot you out of the fear that they have for you. Even in the hood, people don't shoot each other in the hood because the nigga that he's shooting ain't got no gun. You would be a damn fool to believe that if you thought it was true. Just because it doesn't make sense to us don't mean it doesn't make sense at all. That man is fighting his opposer. The Caucasian man in the badge, behind the badge, don't have a right to be shooting no one that ain't shooting at him. That ain't his goddamn job. But we don't realize that we really employ them. We don't know that reality. We don't know that
it's your right to bear arms.
We have a right to bear arms as what they consider to be a citizen. But when you study the word citizen, you probably wouldn't even use it because the word citizen means slave anyway. But that's a whole nother story, right? A lot of us don't even know how to read the dictionaries that we go to for our very truth. We don't know it. So you can never know the truth for the truth to set you free if you don't know how to read where the truth is coming from.
That's right.
The Bible is the one book that has been read 150 times by a bunch of 150 damn different people. Sitting in the same churches that they go to, they've been going to for 50 years, giving you the same.
100% right.
That no one can understand any.
I want to chime in.
Keep in mind, it's their game. So they laid the laws out and their rules to play their game. So they're playing it. They able to play it unfair.
Hold on, Eddie. Let Javon say what he was going to say. What you going to say, Jake?
So I was just going.
That's why they got us on book as 3/5 of a man.
I was just going to piggyback off of what you were saying as far as the truth. You know what? So the truth can be seen in 20 different ways by 20 different people.
Correct.
And that's why it's important to find your truth. And your truth is the truth that's inside of you. What makes you a man? Your principles that you abide by. You know, and it's very important to look inside of yourself. Discover the greatness that exists inside of you. And I think sometimes, you know, and us as a people, the reason why some of us are so lost is that we seek truth. But we seek truth from outside of ourselves. And some of us look for it in the Bible. Some of us might look for it in the history books. Some of us might look for it from our elders. Some of us might look for it in our ancestors. And there might be bits and strands of it, but in the process, we get lost. So that's why it's important to look for your truth. You know, find your truth. And that exists inside of you. And it's important that while we honor our history. You know, we honor our history, but to plant your soil and create your history. You know, and
Yeah.
that starts with how you raise yourself. That starts with your child, you know,
Yeah.
and that's very important. And I think a lot of times what we do in our community is we can be a little bit too reflective. And while it's important to honor our legacy, it's also important to pass it forward, you know, and
Yes.
to build foundations in the youth, you know, and
Yes.
to strive, you know, to actually, you know, raise your child right.
Correct. That is so solid. And I really wish that most of us as a people would just, and this is not anything against the people who go to church. I'm never beating you up purposely. Some of my words are a little bit ragged, but it's just because I have my own thought process. Okay. So I apologize ahead of time. Okay. But my issue with people in these churches is that they're only teaching the Bible when that's not people's reality. It's not your reality. When we stop and stop trying to figure out other people's truth, we'll find more of our own truth. When I tell people all the time, when you decide to become a better person, focus more on self. When you become a better you, everybody else fall into place. I wouldn't give a fuck how many times you did it. If you cared that much about self, you would care that much about others. And people don't live enough about that. They say, oh, people are selfish. No, he's not. He's a damn egoist. He only thinks about the person that he sees in the mirror, because selfish is to be like something else. To be selfish is to treat people like you treat yourself. If you gave a fuck about others, if you gave a fuck about yourself. I walk down, I'm telling you, it's not ever a street that I see a child getting out of place on that I don't stop my damn car and get his ass without failure. Without failure. I go to the store and I see our brothers out there selling dope. I don't think anything's wrong with selling dope, because you're only selling dope to the people who want it. I think they're in a good position. But what I do tell them is, do you guys know that you got the strongest entrepreneurial spirit? Don't ever let nobody tell you that you can't work for self. Now, what you need to do is put some of this money in a place where everybody can't see it happen. That's what you really need to do. If you're going to do something, learn how to watch what you think is wrong. Because to me, you're only giving people what they really want. Our goal and our positions in our history is to study as if the Bible that we so rapidly read is said to study. If we go back into the true dictionaries outside of back to the 1950s and really get us an etymology, it's etymology for those of you who are not aware. Etymology is where words derive from. That's what the etymology does. It tells you where words come from and when they changed. When we get our Constitution, that's where you learn your law. It states right there in the Constitution that we have a right to bear arms. It does. It doesn't say if you've been to fucking prison. That ain't what the goddamn Constitution say. The Constitution says I got a right to fucking bear arms. The Constitution says that I have a right that protects me against search and seizure. When the police officer stopped me, it is his right. It is his job to tell me who he is, not for me to identify myself. He's bonded, not me. He's bonded. We never sue those bonds when them crackers fuck with our children. We don't know what the fuck to do. That's why they be trying us like that. Do I think you should kill people? No, I don't.
No.
A bitch killed one of mine, we hang 10 of yours. Real nigga. When we start making real shit happen, people listen to real shit. You won't even have to have $1 if you start hanging Caucasian kids when they kill black kids. Promise. Fucking promise. Will we lose some? Yeah, we gonna lose some. Everybody loses in the war. Everybody. There's never a war that has ever been had that people didn't lose people on both sides. The people with the least amount of deaths win. It is what it is. If we want to know our truth, in order for our truth to set us free, we have to study to show thyself approved. And when we learn that God is just a deity, we'll find out that God is us within ourselves. The Creator never had a physical form. So the Creator never had to make man in his image. That ain't make sense. We call it a he, it could be anything. We don't know what it is because we don't study. We don't know what we're really saying. I tell people, and it's real simple. Even when I was in class, I tell my class, do not call me nice. I learned that the word nice means stupid. Don't call me that. You know what my class did? They said, like, Miss Sheba, you so kind. I know the fuck I am. Don't call me nice. We don't ever stand the ground that we don't want. We never stand the ground that we mean. We don't say enough of what we need. We always talk about what the fuck we want. And my brother, Ivy, if you're listening or if you heard this, I love you for this. He brought me to the dictionary, fucked me up a couple times, like a lot of times actually. But one of the things he said is he said, I'm gonna give you something and tell me what you think of it. And I said, okay. He said, to want love is evil. Fucked me up. To want love is evil. I said, well, how the fuck to want love could be evil? I said to him. He said, well, go get your dictionary. Okay, I went and got my dictionary, and to want is to lack of. You know how many times we talk about what the fuck we really want? You don't know what you really saying. And it's simple things. We're using simple words connotatively that have denotative effects on our lives. That's what we're showing our fucking children. Because half of us don't teach them to read the Constitution. We teaching them to read the goddamn Bible. The laws of what the one man should do, like the person, you. Maybe you could go by those rules or laws of the Bible. But the laws of your land lies in your Constitution. That wasn't written by the Caucasian. It was written by the man who gave him right to run government in this state, on this land. He only owns 13 colonies here. But we don't study that. That's why they be fucking us like that. You don't even need a driver's license to drive your fucking car. But we think we do. My sister is a CDL. She holds a CDL. Anybody who holds a CDL needs a driver's license to drive because your driver's license is meant to drive for commerce. We are travelers. We go the fuck we want to go. We do what the fuck we really want to do. That's the reality of our truth. But that's not what we do. We constantly live our lives by what the fuck other people told us. Fuck what he said about you. Fuck what he said about your history. He killed your people. And Ariel, I did a piece that I don't even remember what it was called. But it say 3/5 of a man stole your identity, stole your land, took your nationality and your religious creed, took your Yahshua created to Jesus, took the man who knew about the original earth's makeup and replaced them with the preachers. That's what they did to you. They killed those people and raised their children as their slaves. They didn't bring all these people here. They brought the people here that they stole. Those people that they own, they didn't bring all of us. And until we know that to be our reality, we'll always fall to look down the barrel of his gun. We're not standing up for each other in our own land. This is your own land. They got you believing that this is their land. This ain't your shit. And we constantly say, the white man this, the white man that. Fuck that damn white man. Because if you really study what white man really mean, we give him power when we call him that. I got a Black's Law Dictionary right in my living room that says a free white person, which is where the word white comes from. A free white person is us, the man who's already here. When you look into your dictionary, you need to look this up. You can look this up on Google, it'll fuck you up, that the troglodyte is what he is. A troglodyte nigger, that's where the word nigger really comes from. A troglodyte is a man who dwells in a fucking cave. He don't have no fucking history. We got a history. And as Javon said, we got to go within ourselves to feel it. You know what you feel. Your spirit bears witness to every one of your truths. But we don't listen to it. Just like when we're in relationships and we know these people that we're in relationships with ain't worth for shit. But we're not listening to those vibes. We're not going to those gut feelings. We're not feeling in that moment. We're allowing what we really want to be real. You ain't ever gonna get justice in that system, because that justice, there was ever no peace there. You can't get just out of unjust. That's what's wrong with our people. And we don't stand for, if we don't begin to stand, we're going to continue to lose our children. We're going to continue to be at this place talking about the fuck we're going to peacefully protest. Bitch, it ain't no such thing as peaceful protest. You kill one of mine, bitch, I kill one of yours. Maybe I should take 10 of yours. It ain't no need I sit in front of no camera and I'm going to cry in front of no fucking camera, and I'm going to be kind in front of no damn camera. If you don't want your camera to pick up this shit, then don't put it in my damn face. But we always trying to be cool. And this is not to negate anybody's emotions, and I hope I'm not hurting anyone's feelings. But even down to Trayvon Martin mama, she coming up there talking about some fucking peace. Fuck peace. Ain't no such thing as peace. Ain't no such thing as peace when you have caused calamity. That's what the issue really is. That's the problem that a lot of us have, and especially our brothers, because the woman, a lot of us women are strong-minded. We have a lot of us that are fucked up too. We got some butterheads. But if a lot of the men support the women in their lives, they'll find out that they have so much more. But everybody's trying to get ahead. We all got that crab-like mentality. No one's ever really willing to work together. I think that the people that are out there looting are looting because they're angry. I think those guys that are out there tell themselves that they're protesting, they're doing it because they're fearful. I think the people are using the situation as an opportunity to do what the fuck they want. But that's because they're all fucked up and they're lost in their mind. They don't know what to do with self. Self is broken. Self is broken. We're divided into within ourselves. We cannot teach our children anything unless we become better at what we do. And I know all of us didn't do what our mamas told us to do, because otherwise we would never have gotten in any trouble coming up. We would still be doing exactly everything our mothers told us to do, but we knew some of that shit our mama told us to do wasn't right. So pay attention to all the shit you thought she said that didn't make sense. And that's where you're going to find your truth at. Because we're the only, when our children become of an age where they start procreating, we're going to lose another battle in another generation. Because we're not paying the fuck attention to what our reality really is. And I don't know if a reality has anything to do with this set, but I always like to share it because I think that we're always looking outside of ourselves at others' lives to see exactly what we should be really digging within ourselves to do. But the reality says when I changed the truth of my reality to yours, my reality no longer made sense.
They don't even exist.
Myself living my life looking through your white picket fence. It set off my defenses. My happy suddenly began to warp. And the strength I used to have suddenly began to lose its support. But don't worry. You see, you're not to blame. You paint the perfect picture of your world, and our worlds are just not the same. So what I should have told you before, what I realized is what scrapes your knees can't make mine sore. We never called our failures flaws until we compared them to someone else's success. That's when you start to doubt your progress and turn your confidence into stress. You even started sending up prayers asking for possessions that you were unaware of how they were obtained. And when your plans start to fail your expectations, that's when you began feeling unsustained. That's when you ran to the church. You dropped down on your knees praying to your God, telling him that you always put him first, but not putting into perspective that you was blessed with all he thought you need. But at some point, your sight sought higher than what you were provided with. That's when it turned to greed. You became too big for your God. You even stopped praying at all, and when all your dreams began to fail, you was the first thought, you began to call those images that you're mimicking. May have been praying every minute, but we feast our eyes only on what the naked eye can see, so we don't keep our God in. And what's good for the goose, but the gander may not be fine, because what has already filled your gut can't fill mine. So like I told you before, that what scrapes your knees can't make mine sore. We have to build our reality based on what we know to be true. And a lot more of our brothers, and I'm going to put this on our brothers because you guys have that physical strength. And there's a lot more that us women can do if we had a stronger back man to support us.
Can I say something?
I'm going to give it to you 2 seconds. And instead of us always seeming to be putting you guys down, just know that we really are in deeper need of you than you really know. And people only lash out when they don't know what else to say to us. That's when they lash out at you, when they don't know what else to do. It's not necessarily to beat you down as a man, which a lot of us women need to stop doing that shit anyway. But and a bigger part of it all, if you're going to build a thicker skin, it should be there, not with anyone else, just within yourself and within your race and within your households and within your families. You can have the floor, Javon.
Oh, no, I was just, and I know you mentioned like the brothers, and I just wanted to say, I think a lot of us as Black men from day one, this country, it seems like the biggest target they have is the Black man, and it's so many different things that's in this country that's designed to strategically attack us, whether it be the prison cells, whether it be, self-hate. And when I say self-hate, there's mechanisms that's designed for us to hate each other, whether it be opportunity, there's just so many things that's designed for us as Black men to like tear us down, right. Even like nowadays, one of the biggest threats to this society is a strong, masculine Black man. The more masculine you are, especially in today's society, they tear you down. They have a phrase this phrase been circulating for the past couple years. It's called toxic masculinity. Okay. And that's when you are a man. They deem that whenever you are a man and you are, you're a strong Black man, they think that's toxic. And of course that's not, so, just in defense of the brothers, there's a lot of things that's designed to like tear us down. And that's why it goes back to finding the strength that exists within you. But, there's always been an attack on the Black man, from drugs, bringing the drugs into our community. It's always been an attack on us. We've always had the target on our backs, So I just wanted to say that real quick, especially in today's society, whether you're dealing with LGBTQ issues or this or that, there's just we getting it from all angles. You turn your back, you turn left, you turn right. Something somewhere, somehow, it just seems like something's out to get us.
Right. And what's amazing, because I was having a conversation with a sister a couple of weeks ago, and she really dug deep inside of me, and she said somewhat of the same thing you said, but about women. And she said, she used the term Black, and we know I don't use that too much, but she said the Black woman has it hard. And I said, explain. She said, when our men tear us down in a lot of situations. She said, and then they go out to the world beats them up, they come home, and we have to rebuild them. And then what ends up happening is in our rebuilding of him, because whatever we see or deemed him to be perfect as, he hasn't seen himself as. So then he starts to continue, then he's continuing to beat us down. Then we have to go out there. We have it already as a woman in a man's world, as people think. And then we have it as a Black woman in a man's world. So now we're looked down upon. Everybody has a problem with the Black woman. And what was ironic about her saying that is because I had a conversation with another lady who's not even from here. She's a Canadian, a friend of mine. She's my coach, Sherry Lynn. She said, nobody likes the Black woman. And I thought that was so amazing for her to have never had that conversation with the other lady and for her to come out the mouth with that. And then what happens a lot of times in our culture is our men of hue, they become successful and then they go and choose other race of women as if we didn't struggle with them together. See, a lot of women of hue, we do a lot of struggling with our mates. A lot of women of hue see a lot of things in our mates that even our mates can't see in self. And when he becomes too outrageously overwhelmed with what he thinks he's incapable of being or doing, then we begin to have to take the brunt of that, only for him to say that we beat him up when really it might have just been himself. So that was very powerful that you would say that, because a lot of times we are rarely in each other's shoes. And I think a lot of times as people, we don't wear each other's shoes enough. We don't stop and think enough about how what we have affects the people or our counters. We don't think about those things. And something as simple as you and I having a conversation, right? Javon, you, me, and Ty, we all three of us having a conversation. And you call me back tomorrow and say, Sheeb, I kind of didn't like what you said to me yesterday. And I'm going to ask you naturally, what did I say to you? And when you convey what you felt I have done to you, and my response to you to say, I didn't mean that at all. This is simple stuff, right? Javon, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry you took that way. Now me and Ty are having a conversation, and Ty offends me, and I don't talk to him anymore. I never put myself in his shoes, because there was a time where I was understood. No, he didn't understand. You didn't understand me. And I had to clarify my truth in the conversation that you and I had to follow. But I never gave him that same respect. So something as simple as that, how do we not care enough about each other to place ourselves in each other's shoes? That man got condemned and beat up. I remember when someone condemned and beat me up emotionally. Why would I beat my man up? Why do we not think like that? And a lot of women are raised like that. They're raised like that. And it's a really sad situation, because our children are falling to the wayside of these type of situations. And everybody is hurting through the same process. So I thought that was very powerful that you would say that, because we all think the same about each other.
And we need each other. Yeah, definitely.
We really do. Yeah. And I think one of our biggest issues, and maybe we should start a Constitution conversation, that we're actually studying our Constitution from beginning to where it was formed in articles and amendments, because now they're just making amendments and acts because they don't have the power to change the laws. And we're asking them to be just in an unjust situation, but they don't know their history as well as we claim we don't know ours.
Right.
If you really, I'm telling you, if you're having a conversation with a Caucasian who actually is willing to listen, and you ask him about his forefathers' fathers past, he have none. Meanwhile, they're pelting that we don't have a history, but it's really them that don't have one. If you take that fear from our cultured children to say, you came from me. Now, all the other stuff that they learn, it won't even really matter later if you strongly taught them to be strong-minded. And a lot of times we don't teach our children that. And as our men, we need those men in our children's lives, because it might not just be the children that you bear.
It might be the neighbor's kids. It might be somebody else. It's a village. It is a village.
And the village ain't just where you live. The village is where you go. You take the village with you. Our communities, we think of them too broadly, but they're really very small. I always tell my children, this is our community and my house. When I get in my car and I get on the road, I'm in another community. When I arrive at my place of work, that's its own community. Sometimes I want to bring those communities together. And I'm seeing them broadly, but they're really, really small. I can't expect anyone who hates me to teach my children proper.
That's right.
If I've deemed them to hate me, they're never going to teach my children proper. And so I mean, what are you guys' final takes on this? Because I really appreciate you guys coming on. I wish all the other brothers were here so I could just kind of give them that that final thank you, because I really appreciate you guys for taking your time out with us today. So what are your final thoughts? Like what do we miss that you thought about that, through the process of other people's conversation?
I like I always say, I always take what each panelist says on here, and I apply it to my life, so I can reenact what I've learned from them, from the people that's on the panel, because I don't know all the answers, but I have many questions, and usually when I'm on the panel like this, some of my questions are answered. So I try to reenact the positive that I hear and try to understand what I don't agree with. So maybe I can agree with it.
Wow.
Because it's
hold on, you caught me out with that one. I gotta write that down. You try to I'm gonna use overstand. I know you meant what you said, understand. So he said, I try to understand what I didn't agree with.
Right. And because sometimes we listen to respond and we don't listen to hear. So when we're on a panel like this, the proper showmanship, if I could say that, is to hear without responding, so we could get a better understanding. Because I may not have went through what he went through, and he's speaking of his experience. I'm speaking of my experience. You're speaking from your experience. So you can't deem nobody's experience as being wrong because you never been in that place before. So this is why our society in a whole is messed up, because it's one way of thinking and one way of acting, and not understanding that there's many ways of thinking and many ways to respond. So we constantly beat each other up all day long about things. And like when Sheba was talking, I like when she talked, because she hit both sides of the coin. And I think that I had to learn to be we had this discussion of the last panel we was on about taking accountability for yourself. And once you understand what you are capable of doing, and you'll understand what you're fearful of not doing. But all of that stuff derives in us, and then you can actually live the truth. And we talked about that on the last panel. We talked about taking accountability for our actions. Well, and understanding that our actions blow up to a big magnitude. And when you was talking about the women, about how the women talk negative towards the men, and then you said that the men are not being that strong backbone to the women. And then ADL was talking about, and he was talking about the same thing that I was saying, but we said it in a different way. All of that stuff that we fail to encourage each other and push each other and be that launch in each other's life, because the system was set up that way. It was set up that way to deem us separate, because they knew once we're together, there's strength. None of this stuff could happen to us as a people if we was just like this. I remember, I don't have nothing against gays. I just don't like what they do, because I just don't do it. I remember when Wilton Manors wasn't even on the map. Wilton Manors was just a place you walk through. But look how that community brought Wilton Manors together as being one of the most prime real estate places in South Florida.
Yes.
What's going on with that? And it's happening, and they support their own. So I looked at that, and I looked at what we do to support our own. And some of us, the biggest response, what we do is we support our own is our verbal. We don't do no actions with them. We always go to our own and say, hook me up. Can you give me a hookup with that? Can you do that with that? but we don't understand that that's how the system set us up to do each other, so we won't be like this. If all of that stuff, it deems us as a people to be weak. So with all of this stuff that's going on, like I said earlier, my job for myself and the people who I touch, the people who I'm not talking about physical stuff, I'm talking about the people who I'm around all. But my job is to let the people know that I understand it's a game. I see the game. I understand the game. But I'm not gonna let the game make me respond in the mannerism to get me caught up in the system, which is part of the game. I refuse to do that. I refuse to do that. And if I could take other brothers and other sisters with me and touch them and just hit this mind right here to make them see that it's all a game, I think I did something in my life. I don't look at my life as when I was born is when I die. It's what I do with that dash that's in the middle. Yeah. So with my mindset now of understanding the game and not being hostile towards it, because I'm living in it. It's for me to continue to evolve myself, educate myself, and constantly deal with other people, and whether it's white, black, Spanish, it don't matter. To constantly deal with people in that mannerism, and that's my take on this platform.
I love it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed you guys and your outlook on things and your clarity on the way that you guys see things, because Javon, you really fucked me up earlier because I had never seen it from that perspective. And Uncle, we always have these conversations and certain conversations and our personal talks, and you bring me to a lot of clarity. I've learned to not fight what people think. As you said, I try to overstand what I didn't agree with, and I do that, and I've never really been able to put it that way. So I think that's very powerful. Mm-hmm. And when I write my next piece, I'm gonna write it in it. Okay, so I'm just telling you that you're gonna hear your words in my poetry.
So those words was if I could just have some closing statement. That phrase right there, actually, that echoes everything that I'm gonna say. Because what he said was just so powerful, and that is always my perspective. And I'm gonna say some things. It's gonna be from a different angle, because I think that if you was to survey, whether you want to call us people of hue, Black people, African American, if you was to survey all of us, I think pretty much all of us would agree on one thing: unity. We all need unity. Everybody would check that box, except for me. And here's the thing. Here is my thing.
Okay.
I think that whether you call him God, Allah, Jesus, the creator, I think that God has a beautiful sense of humor, because when he make us as people, I believe sometimes God makes us like he might give you something that is deemed as a strength, and that same strength can be your weakness, and it's crazy. Your life and the purpose of your life is just learning how to manage it. And when it comes to us as people of hue, Black people, one of our greatest weakness is unity. But one of the reasons why we can never achieve unity is because we are so diverse. Our strength is in our diversity, So when I say unity, the reason why I wouldn't check that, one thing that I feel as though I think we need, just to piggyback off everything he said, we need ununified unity. And basically what that concept means, it means learning how to disagree in a productive way. And when you talk about the gay community, guess what? It's LGBTQ. It's not just one. It's a whole bunch of them. But you know what makes that community so powerful is because guess what? gays don't like transgender. This one don't, but guess what? They're unified in ways that they don't agree. And when it comes to us as Black people, as people of color, people of hue, we are so diverse. The Creator blessed us in so many different ways. You have someone like a brother Martin Luther King. His perspective, he wanted to go this way. But you had somebody like a Malcolm X who wanted this way. Now, guess what? They both wanted the same thing. The same thing, but they just chose to go at it from two different angles.
Different way.
When you look at this generation, if you talk about sports, people talk about Michael Jordan, some talk about LeBron, but our thing is we beat each other up. So the people who are for LeBron and the people who are for Michael Jordan, they bash each other. But if we could learn to, hey, I'm going to ride with Michael Jordan or I'm going to ride with LeBron, but guess what? I'm not going to knock that brother down. I'm not going to knock this sister down. So that's one thing that we need in our community. We need that in our community. We need to learn how to, because guess what? It is impossible. And this is why I say I wouldn't check that box. It's impossible for us to be unified. You know why? Because we're just too diverse of a people. You spoke about the church in the Bible. Guess what? If you bring someone who the church deemed to be a sinner, they would never accept them. And vice versa. If you deem somebody who is like a vegan versus a meat eater, it clashes. So what we need is like, hey, you gonna ride with the vegans, I'm gonna ride with this meat. But guess what? I'm going to respect you though. And I'm not going to knock you down. And that's what we do. So the people who's going to ride with the Bible, they're going to ride with the religion. Guess what? They would never let these people and these people's put. And that's why that quote was so powerful. Is because you have to be able to understand, you know, in spite of our disagreement, we still going to ride. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to head this way. I'm going to take northeast. You go northwest, but the goal and the purpose is to, all right, you know what? We're going to win. We're going to succeed. And if we adopt that mentality, I feel like we would get much further if we put the goal first. And we don't do that. We don't put we don't put the melanin first. We don't do that as a people. We put our own selfish agenda. So if I'm with the church, I'm gonna ride with this. If I'm one of them old school cats, guess what? I'm gonna ride with them. I'm gonna ignore the youth. I'm gonna ignore, and guess what? As much as I might disagree with some of these youth and the language, this and all that, we have to break that bond and learn how to understand them. And just as how the youth have to learn how to do that to us. And I feel like that's our community. And that's why I say when God made us, he made us so beautifully. And that's the reason why, just to go back to something we said earlier, say, why do they fear us? They fear us because we are so beautiful. We're so diverse. You have a Jay-Z, you have a Nas, you have Beyonce, you have Serena, you look at our history, and it's not just entertainment. From it's not just in every facet of our being, you can see the beauty that exists. And sometimes those beauty diametrically opposed to one another. But guess what? It's still beauty. And I feel like us as a people, we need to even if we're not going to, we need an understanding and respect each other and put this first. Put this first. We gonna ride with this. At the end of the day, no matter what team you play for, no matter which religion you believe in, no matter what's your mentality, what's your education level, no matter how you perceive certain things, we gonna put this first, we gonna ride with it, and we gonna try to go this way. And until we do that, we will always move circular. And we would always be pulling from this person, pulling from that person, just because they're different. It's a lot of people who I don't ride with, but hey, it's about being open. It's about being understanding. And guess what? I disagree with this person's principle. I don't understand. I don't know why would you think that way. But hey, guess what? If your goal is to move the culture, move us forward as a people, then let's do it, bro. Let's do it. So that's pretty much my take on that situation.
I love it. I love that. I don't even have a, I don't know what to even say.
He said something. No, but he said something, Sheba, that's in scripture that where it talked about the in the body, the hand can't say I don't need the arm because it's not a part of the head.
Right.
It takes everything to move a body.
Correct.
Whether the foot is not important to the knee. All of that, it takes everything to move the body. It takes everything. And he said it. He was quoting the scripture when he said what he said about diversity, because the scripture said there are diversities in the house of God. And I ain't talking about the churches. I'm not talking about the church. I'm talking about the people. There are diversities inside the house of God. God made us that way to be very diverse and to respect and honor those diversities, not to look down upon, because we, you know, like I said tonight, all of y'all did something for me.
Oh.
It made me now, I have to go research now and try to bring clarity to the stuff I just didn't understand.
Correct. I love it.
Because sometimes what we don't understand, we just trash.
Yeah. Because some people are afraid of what they don't know. I think a lot of it is fear. I think a lot of what we go through as a people, and there go that word fear again. People tend to push away things that they don't understand. They just
don't want to understand.
Yeah, it's unfathomable. It doesn't make sense to them. Sometimes people can't wrap their head around that shit. It's just like, where did that come from? How did you develop that in your mental? And because they don't have a way of making any change in their mental, they're going to be contemptive of you for being able to make changes in yours. And like for me, I have always been able to, let me not go back always. That was probably a damn lie. But I try.
Where you went, Sheba? Sheba, I can't hear you. Oh, okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'm back.
Okay. I was wondering.
But thank y'all for it sounded like y'all were getting ready to gear up. But I try to always pay attention to different things and different perspectives, because while they might not always apply to me, they might apply to another situation. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest things. And I think you said it very clearly, Javon, to be what you said, ununified in unity, because there are a lot of differences that make people perfectly who they are. And I look to that, even if it's a person that society has deemed, how do you put that? It's not up to par. Like you have the people who are homeless, and you have the people who have everything. You know, I take something from everybody, even from the children.
Exactly.
If you listen to some of the conversations these children have, you'll realize how many times as parents we fucked them up.
A lot.
That's true.
We fucked our children up a lot. And me and my brother was having a conversation a few years, about a year or so ago, and he said, "You know, y'all mamas fuck up y'all daughters." I said, "Explain." He said, "When we were little boys, we really did love the little girls just as y'all love little boys. But y'all mama told y'all that we only wanted one thing, so it put y'all on the defense. So therefore, it took y'all chances away from really properly loving us. So what it did was it put us on the prowl. Now we got to find a girl who mama didn't teach her to think like you." And I thought that was very powerful. So it's always, you could always learn something somewhere that could better benefit us as a whole. So I hope that you guys are willing to take the panel again on another day, where we're giving some clarity to someone else who might really strongly be in a need of some of the things that, or some of the ideologies that they may have never thought about before. So I really appreciate y'all for coming on. And the other brothers, if you watch this a little bit later, I really appreciate you guys for being able to take the moments that you did to sit with us, to give your views and your thought processes on the issues at hand that we have. And hopefully as a unit, we can become better about what we do, that we can better benefit as a culture, as a nation, as a people, that we're raising our children and our children's children, because it might not be our children that we're fixing sometime. It might be others' children. So thank you all for tuning in.
Yep.
If you guys have any friends, like my Uncle Todd brought his friend Greg, and we really appreciate Greg's presence this evening. So if you have anyone who fits into some of these situations, or you have any ideas that you would love to see us sit and talk about, just inbox me. You can check on my page. My regular page is Bathsheba Israel. My YouTube is the Happy Bug Enterprises. So I am Sheba, I am your Happy Bug. And I just look forward to continuing to see you guys right here in this same place on another topic of a conversation, and another place of clarity, and another road to pathways to maybe the success that we're looking for as a people and as a culture. So I want to say good night to all. I want to tell you that I love you. I love my brothers.
Love you guys.
Much.
Love you guys.
Right?
Love you much.
All right,
And
now.
we'll talk
I'm
with
gonna
you.
call you Sheba.
All right, Uncle. I love you. Y'all have a
Okay.
good night.
Love you too.
Love y'all.
Okay. Good night, everybody. Bye bye.
Good night.